You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
Hey everybody, welcome to the Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling podcast. Hey, a big thank you for everybody out there that's been sharing my stuff on LinkedIn. I really appreciate it. Today we've got an episode from a rep in the field. It's a great story. Imagine going from, working your kind of dream job in golf, and then, reality sets in, right? You get married, you have some kids, you want to put them through the best schools you possibly can, give them the life that you dreamed of. And that takes a little bit of cashish now, doesn't it? And Greg is going to join us today and share his story. He's doing really well at a company in the security space. So it's a kind of a mature company, one of the market leaders. And he's going to share exactly what works for him as far as getting into the greenfield accounts, working around existing accounts, making sure he prioritizes things in the right order. Kind of a lot of the stuff we've been talking about on the podcast, but it's so good to hear it from somebody who's actually doing it. Somebody who really, dives into the podcast and wants to use it as a way of making money. Now, here we are. We're pretty much in the middle of 2018. Man, has that gone by fast, hasn't it? Where are you? They say less than 55% of people are going to make their quota this year. Which side of that are you going to be on? So let's really dig into it. Also, make sure you're checking out nudge.ai. They've just released this capability called account-based marketing or account-based selling that's automatic for you. You just set up the accounts that you want to follow. Every morning you get an email showing you exactly what's new and what they're talking about and tells you how you're connected with them. All of that right there. Exactly what you need to know to go out and crush it. And then once you have all that stuff, make sure you have it in Pipedrive. So Pipedrive will give you all the contact information for them, exactly how to call them, email them, and to keep track of them and what stage they're in. All these tools I'm giving you away. You got to check them out. And make sure you're reading the blogs. They're producing great content, especially like Gong's work on cold calling. If you have to cold call, you better make sure you know what works today. And I'm doing a lot of stuff on sales questions about that. But that's enough about that. Let's get into the interview. Hey, Greg, thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Long-time listener, so I'm thrilled to be on the show. I listen to you quite frequently, and it's just exciting to be here. So a little bit about myself. I'm with Checkpoint Software Technologies. We're in the cybersecurity space. I'm a husband, a father of 3, and a full-time employee, so I've got nothing but time on my hands.
Yeah, you got some motivation, do you?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah, I bet.
3 kids in private school. That's all the motivation.
Oh, boy. What are the ages?
Let's see, we've got 12, almost 13, 10, almost 11, and 7, almost 8. So
okay, so you've got a little bit of a ride ahead of you.
Yeah, so I'm told.
Hey, so how'd you get to this point?
Well, sales has always been kind of in the family. So my brother does enterprise sales. My father worked for IBM, and I started from school. I went into the world of golf. After golf, I got into, right. And then after golf, I started a young family, and it was tough being at the golf course, 12 hours a day. So my wife highly encouraged me to find something else. Yeah. So I got into a marketing role, which eventually led to sales. But the background from a teaching and event planning on the golf side into marketing has been extremely helpful in the world of sales, and it also makes it a lot of fun.
And where'd the passion for golf come? Was it just natural, something you'd done in high school and college, or?
No, I went to East Carolina, and the folks in North Carolina have a heck of a lot more talent than I do on the golf course. I had to work at it. It was not a natural gift, but my dad had us on the golf course at an early age, and it's fun. I mean, it's a passion just from the experience point of it, but later did I learn that, time on a golf course with an account is huge. 5 hours of captured time, and it's just a great place to be. So
yeah. I mean, it's certainly natural if you can arrange that. It's a little old school, but it certainly does work, doesn't it?
Exactly. Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. And So your brother and your dad were in enterprise sales. How'd they allow you to skip all those years?
Yeah. Well, they release you from the nest, and they find out what you're good at. And even on the world of golf and event planning and things like that, I was still in sales. I did retail for a while.
Yeah.
It was, air quotes, B2C, but you're selling, whether you're selling something to a membership at a golf course or you get into the B2B world, it's selling. I think it's part of my DNA. Being in front of people is where I shine, in my opinion, and it's just fun. So I ended up there.
Yeah. Are you money motivated? I mean, I guess you have to be now.
Yeah. Well, 3 kids in private school, and
oh boy,
I'm not money motivated, but there's constant reminders that I should be motivated.
Yeah, I can imagine. Wow. So now, when you got into enterprise sales, what was the major difference that you noticed?
Well, from an enterprise sales perspective, you, at least in my experience, you gain a book of business and then you're tasked with going out and finding net new.
Yeah.
My biggest difference has been when you inherit these accounts, you're not the one that started the relationship. You're not the one that found out what the interests are on the other side of the table. So you almost have to go through the whole sales cycle again, building that relationship to an inherited account. That for me has proven to be a little bit difficult because it's just time involved in that.
Yeah.
Versus the net new. You discover who they are, you build the relationship, you earn that trust, and it's kind of a natural progression. That seems to be a little bit easier for me, but on the inherited side of the coin, it's just, part of the process, really.
And how much of your business do you get from existing accounts versus net new greenfield?
It's probably a 80-20. So in the world of cybersecurity and software, you have a managed book of business, and obviously we're supposed to grow that book. So 80% is coming from existing clients, and then 20% of net new, because the time to nurture a new account is time consuming. So that's why that percentage is probably lower.
Yeah. And what type of sales guy would you say you are? A relationship based or technical or just hard worker?
Definitely not the technical kind. I like keeping things high level.
Yeah.
Checkpoint does a good job of pairing every sales or account manager on a one-to-one side. So I've got a dedicated security engineer. So when I need to be technical, I look across the table to my guy, and he certainly fills that gap. But I think it all boils down to relationship. It's all about making that connection and being a good listener. That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah. And, what do you see working today? I mean, I think, maybe I should just let you talk, but I see it. There's certain things about sales that change, and there's certain things about sales that never change.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I've had success with here as of late is speaking engagement. So whether it's with a city organization or it's a local chapter of a CPA group, those folks are always looking for some sort of content expert or industry expert. And I happen to be in a field that is making the headlines with, the big logos that are getting hacked and things like that. And unfortunately, the folks that are making those headlines make our phones ring. And when I reach out to folks that are looking for speakers, and we mention the fact that we're in the cybersecurity space, they're chomping at the bit. They want to learn about it. It is kind of exciting. It's interesting. And when you really get down into the weeds about it, it's kind of scary.
Well, yeah. I mean, I sold security for quite a few years, and, certainly, I did it right after 9/11. So the priority was like super high.
Oh,
right?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And today I think it actually should be higher. I mean, if you look at just what happened with Twitter yesterday.
Exactly.
Just either bonehead moves internally or covert moves externally.
And it's just the involvement of business in general, too. So many people are moving infrastructure in their business to the cloud. And a lot of people are under the impression that if you move to the cloud, you're safe. So we spend a lot of our time educating and teaching. And I think that's where my background plays a big part in having successful events, because you do need to educate these folks on what the reality is, at least in our space. And, you've been in the technical side of the world. It's difficult selling technical solutions when nobody wants to listen to bits and bytes.
Right. But they do want to talk about problems and solutions. And, certainly when you're in the security space, there's always something to talk about.
Without a doubt.
Well, that's it. There's so many things, crazy things, little things, and nobody wants to get caught off guard. And, certainly lose their job or lose their business or be exposed in the press for not doing, what should be standard things.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's eye-opening to, I don't know if you saw the one about Lockheed a few months back, but Boeing. And it was the virus that had been patched for 8 or 9 months. I would have to imagine that somebody in that security role was reprimanded on some level, but something that should have been done from day one is just education.
Yeah, I'm always amazed that they do so little on the enterprise side, but on the consumer side, I don't know if you've ever tried to log into your bank or checking account or your credit card. And you're like, can I turn the camera on and show you it's me? My phone can recognize my face, but I can't get into my cell phone bill,
Short of a DNA sample, they make it very difficult.
And that's it. It's crazy. It's like, a passport, it's a perfect app for like the iPhone 10. And you're like, really? I have to go down and get a picture, and you have an old picture, and we can't just do this online. It's craziness. But at least with what you're selling, I think you have lots of topics that the customer's interested in that are relevant to your product, as opposed to just talking about your product.
Oh, without a doubt. It all comes down to, every salesman has an approach as far as how they go to market. And mine has been storytelling, and there's 1,000 good storytellers out there. And when you can find a story that resonates with somebody as it relates to security or whatever the product may be, you can start to put those dots together, and the education becomes easier. The story is, received better, and it makes the sales cycle move quicker, and the relationships build that much quicker.
Yeah, because what you see mostly in the sales expert training space is really just the opposite. You see coming up with a better pitch, and you're like, well, are you really at the pitch stage yet? You're like, do you even have interest? Or you're just cramming it down their throat. Now, do you guys have a sales development role too? Or do you on your own?
Well, I don't want to say it's me on my own, because I've got a great team that's here in my geography, but I also have an inside sales team. They don't have the SDR title, but as far as the admin work and generating lists and getting, the nuts and bolts around a campaign, I've got assistance with that. But as far as my book of business and my quota, I 100% look at that number as me being the CEO of my quota, and my security engineer is tied at the hip with me as far as his numbers. Yeah. So we run it like our own business. We, we go out and we arrange meetings as if it's our own business, and the numbers just, roll up to, a bigger entity, but it is our doing 100%.
So it sounds like there's a lot of triage, meaning that you look at that 80% of which you call book of business or existing accounts. You got to prioritize them. You got to say, like, okay, who is open-minded or going to be in the need of additional products within the window of your comp plan, and where does that fit in? How do you go through that process?
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to relationships. So, and just to kind of give you a little bit of kudos, looking at some of the podcasts in the past has really morphed the way I look at my book of business. And when you look at things from a date perspective and shifting your priority from what's going to close now versus the size of the deal, so not chasing the whale, 99% of the time, and looking at what can close now, what needs my attention now, what relationship needs to be nurtured now, that has been the way that we have attacked 2018. And the numbers don't lie. 2018 has started off successful. Q1 wrapped up with some great numbers, and Q2 is off to some great pipeline. And it's all based on, date sorting and attention focused on date versus the number. Yeah. And on the back end of that, it all boils down to listening. The dates may be the starting point as to where the conversation starts, but when you get in front of somebody and you start having those conversations, you got to be a good listener. It's got to be not so much product focused, but solution focused. And I think a lot of folks just forget about that part.
Right. And the date, you've got to understand what's the date that's driving them. You have your date in mind, and probably you're not talking to procurement people. You're talking to security folks, IT folks, right?
CISOs, CFOs, CTOs, the world of technology, as you well know, has changed so much over the last 10 or 15 years that it's not just the CTO, it's rolling up into the CFO or even the CEO, which is kind of fun because you're having more of a business conversation and not so much a technical conversation, because the need that they're trying to solve is a business need. It just happens to be solved with a technical solution.
Right. Yeah. If you can couple that, and that's the really talented salespeople, is coupling a technical product to a business problem that has money attached to it. And
my old boss calls it the NFL of selling, which I now know what he means by that.
Yeah. And too many people focus on what the product does as opposed to what the product does for you and prevents from happening, because it's a lot like insurance in some cases.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. And I'm glad you took that advice. I've seen too many reps, and even I've gotten stuck in that trap where all of a sudden you see a multi-7-figure deal out there, but it's loose. It's not really grounded in business. The person that's excited about it just started there, and all of a sudden you drop everything and try and chase it. And then it takes up all your time, and all of a sudden you're left with nada.
Yeah, an empty pipeline is the most uncomfortable place you can be.
Yeah, and in dealing off of reality, your customer's reality, not just yours. Right?
Yeah.
Nobody calls up and asks you how you're doing this month, right?
Not in my world, at least.
No, they don't, do they? And so how do you go through that qualification and that triage stage? So you meet with them, you kind of understand where they're going. Are they all open-minded, or do you have to crack some walnuts there sometimes?
No, I mean, I guess it's different case by case, which is a general statement, but the one thing that we have tried to do is kind of qualify the buyer, and we use the term psychography. So what type of buyer are they? And we've broken it down in the example of, are they a Walmart buyer, are they a Macy's buyer, or are they a Tailor Fit buyer? And essentially what that means is the Walmart guy is shopping off of price 100%. The Macy's guy is probably managing his boss and his boss's expectations. And then the custom Tailor Fit guy is there for time and trying to save time. And if we can kind of rope the decision makers into one of those categories, I can then explain to my team what type of buying habits this person may or may not have, and it changes the dialogue. It may change the presentation, but it sets realistic expectations that make the whole sales cycle move smoother.
So you got a pretty diverse territory then, right? It's geographic. Is that true? Or
my territory is the state of Georgia, so I've only got one state. But
is that all?
I'm not asking for more. Please don't repeat that.
Without quota, it's one thing, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it's a beautiful state, and I always did good in Georgia when I sold.
There's a lot of enterprise business here. There's a lot of big logos here. It's just unfortunately in the months of April and May, the whole city seems to be covered in green pollen. So aside from that, it's fantastic.
That and the traffic, yeah.
Don't get me started.
But okay, so you got this geographic territory. You've got a style of customers, which makes great sense. So you know how to prioritize them and how to work with them. And I think that's a great approach, certainly when you communicate that with your team. But how do you schedule like your time? Do you have a particular cadence to the week or month or quarter?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got their own style, and I guess I'm no different. But coming down to process, 100% is just where you have to live. So I've got specific time geared on my calendar for just time on LinkedIn. I've got time on my calendar for cold calls. I've got time on my calendar for drop-ins to my current book of business. I've got time dedicated for anything and everything that you can slice and dice. And I replicate that across my entire week. And then if it needs to, I can replicate across the month. But those are things that are not just placeholders. I have to stick to those times. And there's certainly things that can be moved around if something urgent were to come up. But to have a process that I can repeat is where you have to live and breathe.
I agree completely. It's those reps that kind of every week looks different. It sounds like your territory is small enough that you drive everywhere. You don't have to fly that much.
Correct.
Yeah. And plus, your customers have a cadence too. Mondays are probably not the greatest time to do a drop by. And
definitely not.
So once you have the system, and then you get July and August where you probably have big vacation times that must drive you nuts, huh?
I mean, it does, but if you look at the calendar from past years, what's good timing, what's bad timing, and I look at the summer months as an opportunity to book additional speaking engagements. So if I'm in front of a group in the summer months, the group I'm in front of, I know is dedicated, I know is, a seeker of information, and those opportunities or those, I hate to call them leads, but those conversations that get started are genuine. And those are the ones that I don't want to say are a shorter sales cycle, but they're genuine in the sense that if we start a conversation with those people in the summer months, one, I think they look at the folk on the other side of the coin as being just as dedicated. And the conversation is, the shoulders are dropped a little bit and it evolves a lot quicker.
Yeah, I mean, I'm finding or hearing a lot from reps that these small little speaking groups, either user groups or partner venues, are being insanely effective versus the old-fashioned trade show approach, or I was talking to a guy yesterday who's been on trade show road trip. He's going on another one next week, and I'm like, does it really pay off? And he goes, well, you see the same people every week.
They've already got all the pens and all the notebooks. I mean, I'm sure they have their place, but not for me.
Right. I mean, I remember at one point in my career, I said, I'm never standing in another booth again. And my manager looked at me like, what do you mean? And I go, sorry.
I wonder how many booths that manager has been in.
Well, and then I had a guy in the territory who loved it, but he would go and then abandon everybody at the booth.
Oh,
And
geez.
yeah, and go, chit chat. And the chit chat stuff is fine. And, if you have everybody in it, the geography is fine. And if you can, go, breakfast and coffees and lunches, those are great. But, standing in a booth is just brutal. That's the closest thing to retail we have in B2B, and it just makes no sense,
Yeah. And I think it has its place with different types of account management. I'm in the commercial space, so I don't do anything with the state and local.
Yeah.
I think on the state and local side, they've got a very niche, conference schedule.
Right.
So I've never sold into that space, but I've talked to guys on our team that do booths in those types of scenarios. And I think it does well there. But on the commercial side, I would lean more towards your opinion.
Yeah, definitely. So give us some advice about like what separates you from like the B players that you must see either in the industry. You don't have to out anybody in the company, but just in general,
Well, there's this guy, Bob. No, I'm kidding. We've got a great team. And I think what kind of separates me, not just where I am now, but from where I've been in my career, is just the amount of passion. And, when I started looking for a new role or a new step in my career, I did a lot of research as to which companies I wanted to go work for. And if you have the ability to methodically look for those companies and find a company that kind of fits where your passion lies, it makes all the difference. And kind of what I mean by that is I'm almost loyal to a fault. I wear my logoed shirt. I bring out my logo pad only because I believe in the company I'm working for. I believe in the product, which on the other side of that coin, it makes that sale so much more genuine when your passion and your hearts and blood, sweat, and tears goes into the delivery. I hate to use the word pitch, but if your pitch is filled with passion, the other folks pick that up. And if you're just there given a canned pitch, speeds and feeds, they certainly pick that up. So with if there's something that separates me, I would say it's passion without a doubt.
And why though? I mean, golfing to enterprise security is a pretty big leap. What about? How'd you get that passion? I mean, what about it?
Yeah, so I mean, in the world of golf, you can teach somebody how to swing a golf club the right way that isn't doing it right in the beginning, and you can see changes and improvements. And I take that same sort of passion into the world of business, to where if I'm in front of somebody and we're analyzing their business, 9 out of 10 times you're going to find some security holes. It's just the way the world works. And if we can help improve what they're doing, improve their process, or at least educate them on looking at it a little bit differently, whether you get the sale or not, you've been able to help that individual and that organization. And that part of the business is fun and exciting, and it gets me out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
Because if you can watch somebody go from a B player to an A player, whether it's on the golf course or in the boardroom, that is exciting. That is fun knowing you are a part of that.
And do you often not see that passion in other salespeople?
I don't know if I don't see it. I just maybe don't
Pay attention.
Don't categorize it in the same type of category, I guess.
And how about as far as like what they do with their time, what they do with their approach? For the listeners, how do they up their game?
Well, I mean, we're in 2018, and there's tools that can help in any setback that a salesman is experiencing. So, I know you like Nudge.ai. There's tools from a LinkedIn, Sales Navigator. There's list building tools. There's time management tools. And I do a lot of work, and it's part of my calendar. Go out and find what's going to be able to help me. I've got self-improvement time on my calendar.
Yeah.
And that is usually used for either reading a book by somebody that's in sales or in marketing, or it's somebody that has got this new tool that may be able to help me. So I'm always seeking who's doing what better than most. And, I try and implement it. And if it works, fantastic. If it doesn't, I trash it.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Do you see a lot of sales reps kind of avoiding technology, or?
I don't know if they're avoiding technology, but they're avoiding change. And that's the killer of greatness, in my opinion.
That's it. Wait for the world to return.
Yeah.
It's
well, good luck with that.
yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, it's going to go back. And how have you seen it change, let's say, in the last 3 years, from your perspective?
When you say it, what are you referring to?
Selling.
Well, I mean, social selling is certainly one that I was not a big proponent of a number of years ago, but the more I learn about it and the more I find the tools being accessible and the more they've made the tools easy to use from a non-technical dumb sales guy like me, I've dipped my toe in those waters and I'm starting to see some successes on the social side. And I think it's kind of comical where you can be chasing after these Fortune 500 logos. And at the end of the day, if you look at how that deal came to be, if Twitter is the reason why I got that conversation started, you would have never heard me say that Twitter was going to be a sales tool 3 years ago. I'm on it every day now because I see the value in
it. Yeah. And so what's your priority on the social tools? What, if you had to, prioritize them, like 1, 2, 3, what would they be?
Yeah, it's not, I don't even have a third. It's 1 and 2. I've got LinkedIn, number 1, first and foremost, and then Twitter on the second. On the LinkedIn side of things, there is so many different plugins that can be utilized to make the process automated and give you a little bit of your time back.
Yeah.
And then on the Twitter side, it's more of and this is just my approach to it, it's more of just a repeat scrub down version of what I've done on LinkedIn, and I've got them linked. And when I put something out on LinkedIn, it typically gets pushed out on Twitter. But from a LinkedIn perspective, the advertising that's available on LinkedIn can get so granular as to who you're trying to target. I think it's silly if you're not out there really learning how that campaign manager can be utilized, because it is so effective and the numbers that it produces are just staggering.
Yeah, it is insanely. I mean, even, relative, because I've advertised on both LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. They all have their issues. I mean, LinkedIn
Sure.
is certainly more expensive, but the granularity is unmatched, because haven't been a user since 2003, you can kind of get a sense of what it can do for you. Hey, so where can people learn about what you're doing and connect up with you?
Yeah, so last name is Wartes and first name is Greg. So Greg Wartes on LinkedIn, and it's Wartes, and G Wartes on Twitter.
Hey, it was great to talk to Greg. What a great guy. I really enjoyed that conversation. Hey, it was kind of unique to hear from almost 2 reps right in a row who have used little venues, little events to actually speak about topics that their customers care about, but not talk about their product. That is real selling. That is that creative part of selling that no one teaches us. We kind of got to learn about the adjacent issues that our customers care about. And there's no excuses anymore. There's podcasts on everything. There's YouTube channels on everything. There's, you can Google anything. You don't have to take a class or go to school or get a degree in it. You can learn it and then be able to actually talk to your customers. If you can't hold a half-hour conversation about what they do during their day, then you're not ready to talk to them, because they don't care about your product until they know that you care about their problems. That is just critical. It is necessary, and there's no getting around it. Hey, I really appreciate you listening. Really appreciate you telling somebody about the podcast. You're my salespeople. I'm dependent on you. Don't let me down. I'm helping you make your number this year. I want everybody who's listening to crush it this year. If you can't get enough meetings, check out b2brevenue.com. I will show you how to fill up your calendar with meetings with as little effort and as much automation as possible, and even how to outsource it. It's not hard once you understand the psychology of people and how they want to be approached and what they want to hear. And guess what? It is not your email or cold call. They're human beings. I show you how to do it, systemize it, and we now have 4 months of office hours. That's 8 hours of examples and training, additional to the course material in there. Pure Gold is open for a whole year. Take you from whatever stage you at to become a meeting ninja. I'm telling you, people are crushing it. I've got people that are just they're just blowing it away. They're like, I walk around the office and nobody gets how I'm getting in to meet with these VPs, talking about what they care about, having these conversations. And my manager's like, what are you doing? He's keeping it to himself. Good idea, because I want the people who are investing in themselves. Forget about Bitcoin. Forget about, cable TV. You can all afford it. You won't even miss it. You can put it on monthly payments, make it smell like gas, as we used to say, and learn exactly how to crush it getting into new accounts and how to look at your territory as a salespreneur and just really crush it in 2018, because time is running out. Here we are, we're in the middle of May, June is coming, and once July and August hit, there goes 2 months, right? And then all of a sudden we're in Q4, and that's our time. We either make it or we don't, and all this effort that we put in, all these things that we thought would work, that we tried, just aren't working. That's it. Come on, join up. And if you want to understand how to make deals bigger and faster, understand how the complex sale really works. Hey, I also started a career advice podcast because I just love helping people with their careers, because I see so many people get stuck because no one helps us. It is just crazy that everyone acts like it's the 50s, where you just, you get out of college and you get a company, go join a company, and you retire 30 years later. It ain't happening anymore. We're lucky to get 2 or 3 years run at a company. Now, things are changing so fast. So I really appreciate you listening. Please support all the partners that I have, Gong and Nudge. Check out Nudge's new account management. This automates it for you. There's no excuses anymore. Every morning you get it right there in your email box. Okay. And all the content that they're providing, Gong will analyze your calls for you and coach you through this process. It's just so much automation today that you're missing out. Also, check out the B2B Revenue Leadership Podcast. I'm putting out some stuff there on entrepreneurs that are really on the leading edge of sales and marketing, so that you can be prepared, especially if you either sell to them or work for them. You can kind of understand what's working today. That's it. Really appreciate you listening. We'll see you next time.